Hi, good morning everyone. Myself, architect Manuraj here, representing IIA Architect Studio. Here I am privileged present Idanazhi, the corridor house, a 2,300 square feet home at Palakkad district of Kerala. Now let's go through the story of Idanazhi, the corridor house. The client Rajiv and his brother Sajiv, belonging to Palakkad, a place with a beautiful green landscape that closely unites itself to the traditions and the culture. The brotherhood and their close bonding with each other leads them towards a thought of a new home for themselves at their hometown and approached us to make their dreams come true. On behalf of his love for his homeland and the culture, he had to be settled abroad for his financial needs in order to fulfill his dream. And then, after a period of time, the construction of the house commenced in the presence of both brothers and their family. About the site context, as we traversed through the corridor of Palakkad during the initial site visit, we have observed the closely packed houses mostly belonging to the Kerala tradition style with pitched roof and courtyards. Also, level variations existed on the either sides of the approach road to the site. This gave an initial sparks to the design of the house that steps down to the existing road level. The Padipura, the element that was inspired from the neighboring house, was also incorporated in the design. The image shows the entry gate of the opposite house and how this feature has been interpreted in the alternate way. The design of the house evolved for the linear shape of the plot that lets or provide an axis defined as the center segregating the plot into two parts and the public and the private spaces on either side and culminating to the puja space. Alternate souls and voids were created in the massing of the whole structure. The void being the courtyards with double height that helps to break the linearity of the house. The jolly wall were added to the create an outer buffer for the courtyards that enables the privacy without compromising the ventilation pattern inside the house. And this is a material that we used in the exposed cement and brick that we used for the elevation facade and all. And the entry gate of the house called Padipura and the view towards the interior as one enters into the house. The walls were used stacked roof on the either side of the entry towards the sit-out space. Coming to the plan, the house begins with the Padipura entry from the road axis leading us to the sit-out space throughout the sunken area with the car porch on the right and the left landscape on the left other kept elevated. The side dimension is very constrained for us, where the front yard, the front facing is 12 meter and the length is 28 meter for us. So the site is always 9 cent. So it was a little constraint to make a linear plot design here. And the main door opens up to the axial corridor, culminating to the puja space that elevates the serenity and the warmth of the interior spaces. On the left, we have living spaces, and moving through the axis, it leads to the open spatial plan, the dining and the open kitchen. The central courtyard lined on the water body that shines in the image is the heart of the design. Two of the bedrooms are positioned on the either side of the courtyard. And the single flight stair accommodate on the courtyard on the left side led us to the living space with a bay window seating that you can see on the image. Overlooking the green surroundings, the axis also maintained on the top floor with the double height courts on either side. Similar bedrooms we followed on the first floor itself. The explored axonometric view, how the form product on the slender volumes distributed on the plan intend to create the vaults and courtyards that rise above masonry walls in the form of slope. The images show how the courtyards adds to the dynamics of the space through the visual narrative. These are the sections that we can see how the linearity of the house we are divided into it. And the entry to the sit-out with the roof tile walls on the either side leading to the axial artery of the house. The exterior, which experimented with a material like exposed brick, cement textured walls, and the roofed, a rich vocabulary on the textures and hues creates a material palettes amalgamating a rustic and contemporary spatial experience with the tropical essence. Here are some images of the project. Here is a living space. It's a staircase space which having single flight to the first floor. In this It's open kitchen and the dining space. And from that open kitchen also, we can see the courtyard spaces where I just don't want to keep the women in the four side closed walls. So I suggested the client to make it as an open, so you also can enjoy the every spaces in your house itself. There's a view towards the master bedroom. It's a bedroom interior spaces. And from the courtyard, we can see the master bedroom where they can see in the morning also, they can get a positive vibe to their internal courtyard itself. So first, from the first floor, what they're seeing, the core spaces of the design. There's some glimpses of where the construction sites is going on. It's exposed cement, and this is the roof tile where we got from the old school, and we reused it here. And the same roof tile is used for the roofing purposes also. This comes skeleton images of the Idanazhi. This is how it was, and now how it is right now. And I just want to say one thing also there about, in this between all happenings, there was a sad news for the family that his brother who initiated the thoughts for the house was no more. But in order to fulfill the brother's dream, the construction of the home was completed and was named as him as a Sajivam, means alive, or as the family believes the presence is still alive in their home. Also, the client who works abroad make a decision to settle down in his hometown in the new home, which was a result of his deep emotion connection with his home, Sajivam. And I just have one video of the project. Courtyard space where we give koi fish pond on either side. This all material we used in the coconut that we cut from the tree, used for the staircase, wood and all. But I believe a home is a place of emotions. Thank you.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you. Yeah, I think what drew us to the project was really, again, one could see attempt and grappling at how to design for contemporary family living, and an attempt at continuity. What is it to build in this place with this sort of legacy for people who have now traveled the world, come back, lifestyles are different, and that's a larger engagement in Indian architecture, because we have a lot of living legacy of practices, more so in places like Kerala, where it's still more alive than many places. And I think all these award cycles aside, your client was very happy with the place and very invested in it. And I think as architects, at least for me personally speaking, that's really the best award per se. So that's great. I think some of the things that we did struggle with is that one very starting point is, you talk about continuity and plugging in and all of that. And sometimes I think like the obvious, we go for the obvious and miss something that's right under our nose, because when we came in, if you remember, the clients were at the porch and the extended family, which is the old family home, was sort of just the next side,
yes,
and they were in their porch. And there was no attempt. And even in the presentation, when we talk about continuity, we talk about some generic roof, but there's no attempt to even speak to that plot below. And we've seen, like, you know, people have this one tiny element that just this generous gesture. And I'm using the word generous a lot because I feel like it is missing in how we design now. You know, architecture has a personality, whether we like it or not, and generosity is one attribute of it. Why we like traditional architecture, like those gates and the threshold, etc. There's a sense of invitation and acknowledgement, and there was no acknowledgement of this close family in their older house that is right next door. Neither in the landscaping nor in the framing, just even in, like, even the porches are, you know, not lined up. So it's like a little cornered. And I found that a massive blind spot in this, you know, where it's almost paradoxical. This second aspect was, you know, the quality of light, and that is just a comment because I think the kind of light people enjoy is very subjective and it's very personal. And light can be extremely sort of like it can generate a certain lightness and everything feels open and floating. It's also been used very powerfully in architecture to create a certain heaviness and a certain brooding quality. I wasn't very sure what the intention was because we all felt when we went that there was a heaviness, even though there's courtyard and all of it. It's more about shadows than light in one sense. And Kanazawa has like this classic of Japanese architecture in the praise of shadows. So it's not really a critique, but it's a question because mostly in houses you try for the opposite. The third aspect that was tricky for us is that there's a certain discontinuity to it. So the dining space is there, which is the public space, and you know the living room, which is also the public space, and there's a courtyard, but they're sort of like in a way diagonally relating to each other. So the courtyard, you don't get the full enjoyment of it from anywhere really, except you're climbing up and down or you're specifically going into the courtyard. And I mean, windows aside, I meant like where you inhabit or see. Those things were sort of, so there is like that thing of a coherence thing where you have a thread. A courtyard is a great idea, but then what is it doing to the spaces? Continuity is a great idea, but what is it doing to your close family neighbor? So, and the roof on top really like didn't do much to the spaces themselves. You know, on the outside, it has a presence, but inside, like in the individual rooms and all, it seemed like it's been added on. And I definitely felt like the roof has a lot of things going on, but on the ground plane, you have elements. But you know, the place where people are sitting, that last photo, that whole space has the potential to do much more as a threshold, which could collect a lot of people. So you're climbing up, climbing down, standing and talking to the next door family. But it could have been a very nice, what you call as private public spaces. A place where people can actually collect and sit and chat, which is how traditional families mostly function, you know. Instead of like a very curated courtyard in the center, not instead of, but this had that much potential in the threshold. So yeah, like strong points. On the visit, we were left with some incompletions there.
Yeah, I think Amrita said almost everything that we had discussed about it, but let me still add. What is commendable in this work, and that's why we all selected it, is to think of a client who is working in Middle East, he's exposed to steel glass architecture, and what can be naturally carried forward when he comes home, and he wants you to do that. That's normally the route. But he's ready to listen to you, you are ready to educate him, and educate him on the merits of an existing heritage. That was in the entire building tectonic. From outside, it was very perceivable. And I'm glad because I feel traditional architecture, and we are missing on that today more and more, traditional architecture was very driven by a lot of common sense. You know, common sense that if I have a window, I have a chaja. I don't know how it is called here, a overhang.
Yes, yes.
If I have an entrance, that is protected by a canopy. If I have a terrace, that has also a cover. In fact, in your case, the overhead water tank had also a cover, which surprised me, but well, granted, not a problem. So water is protecting water through a sloping roof. Not too bad. But what I liked about this device that you have then made and celebrated as a part of your entire external experience and almost reconstructed it to adapt to the heritage of this place. This kind of care that you do externally doesn't show, and I think that's how I understand also what Amrita just said, doesn't go through into the nitty-gritties of making a home or a house. After all, it is not only enjoying those 1 minute. Some client told me one day, architecture is enjoyed for 40 seconds from outside, but you live inside for 24 hours. So the care should be for those 24 hours as well. So if I then go inside your house, the left side was the TV room, if I have not mistaken. That's what I remember, because we saw so many buildings. It looked so insipid. It didn't have any energy, just TV and a sofa. It looked so dead. Yet it takes a position in the house with the foregarden. So it could have been more engaging, informing community. Then I go down the corridor, you get this core where you got this beautiful tree that will grow into that area. There's this staircase, so there's a lot of motion there and movement. So you could easily make that to the center, the focus of the home. Misses out, you put water, you know, there's no place to move anymore, no place to come together, especially because 2 rooms face that and they could spill over into that. That's what I see as the purpose of a courtyard. It is engaging people who live in the house. Then the staircase, very surprising. If by mistake I miss few steps, I will hit my head against the wall because the staircase landing is so tight. I mean, you have to, I mean, there is this little care that you have in the entire architecture from outside. That's missing. You could be turning the staircase, you could be introducing a, there are so many strategies that you can adopt. Then I look down the axis, the rear court, the rear setback area has been treated almost like a stepchild of the building. It's like where you will throw the garbage probably. And to my surprise, as we walked out and stood there, you could see the paddy fields. In fact, that view was so beautiful. And maybe there's somebody who will do sooner or later a piece of building, but still the rear is not a rear of a house. And from the location of the toilet, and there's some dresser also in the rear corner of the room, the bedroom, it doesn't address and inform what is happening in the rear. So I feel the care that you expected inside, within the home, is just not there. So there seems to be a disconnect between the outer attempt and the inner resolutions. That's what I felt. But highly commended from my side, because it is, I'm not saying highly commended from the state award. I have no idea about all those things. But commended as, because you have to understand, as a jury, and I think that's for the entire audience, as a jury you would like to select buildings that are like a model to be emulated. We want to not create a precedence which is absolutely inappropriate for a context which is very sensitive like that of Kerala. The ecosystem also, that's sensitive in Kerala. So we stand a responsibility to select a building. And I think that way your building externally does really good job.
Okay.
Very good job. Thank you.
Thank you.